What's up, everybody? It's Cameron Lawrence from the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. Welcome back if you're joining us again. Welcome for the first time if you haven't seen us before. But it is playoff time, and we are talking 8 must-start players for Week 15. And I don't want to be a guy that just victory laps because I've had plenty of misses. But last week I gave you the running back 3 and 5, wide receiver 3 and 15, tight end 5, and the quarterback 3. So we were on fire last week. Let's hope that we can continue that so that you can dominate the first round of your playoffs. Before we jump into it, make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications because we don't want you to miss a single thing as we finish this playoff stretch and as we head into the offseason, start getting a draft and dynasty content. Our first player we're going to talk about is a quarterback, and he goes by the name Brock Purdy. He plays at Arizona, and Mr. Purdy has been on fire as of lately. This whole 49ers team has. He has 4 top 6 finishes in his last 5 games, 296 yards or more in those games. And the last time that he played Arizona, he had 21.3 fantasy points, and he had no Debo. 20 of 21 for 283 and a tutty. This guy has been getting it done. Whether you think he should be an MVP candidate or whether you think he's just a system guy, it doesn't matter right now for fantasy because everything is clicking and they are rolling. They look like a true juggernaut out there, and Brock Purdy's fantasy value is just doing so well because of it. So we're going to keep rolling with him. If you've got, that question of, do I start Brock Purdy or there's a very short list of quarterbacks I would start ahead of Brock Purdy, and it is Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Dak Prescott. That is it. Those are the only 5 I would start ahead of Brock Purdy right now. I mean, obviously helps like Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow out for the season, but Tua's playing the Jets this week, so I'm going to start Brock Purdy as my quarterback 6. All right, next we're going to move on to the running back position with David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions playing against the Denver Broncos. And I know you might be thinking, well, Gibbs is starting to dominate the snaps a little bit more, really take on the lead back role. And yes, he is, but Monty is still commanding carries. He still has minimal work in the passing game, and he's still more of the goal line back than Jahmyr Gibbs is. He's still averaging 14 carries a game since coming back. He had a touchdown in every single game except for their last game against the Bears. And now they get Denver, who's given up 5.5 yards per carry over the last 5 weeks. Denver's been bad against the run all season long and 124 rush yards a game. Denver's pass defense has been very, very, very good, but the rush defense has kind of faltered lately, even giving up high rushing totals to Alexander Madison and Ty Chandler, who have, not really run against anybody this year. So as long as David Montgomery can continue to see double-digit carries, as long as he can continue to see goal line work, he is going to get you 12, 15, 16 fantasy points and be someone that you want in your lineup to make sure you not only don't get a stinker, but you have a little bit of upside to go with it. At wide receiver, we got Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mark Andrews went out against the Bengals 3 games ago for the Ravens, and in those 2 games since, 20 fantasy points in each game for Zay Flowers. Yes, it does help in the first game. He had a 32-yard rushing touchdown, but nevertheless, 8 and 10 targets in each of those games, and he is the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense, and he's just going to continue to get better. Odell Beckham is coming along as well, but he's more filling into the role that Zay Flowers was before than anything. And they get to play Jacksonville, who's given up 42 fantasy points a game to wide receivers over the last 5 weeks, and an 81% catch rate that is the worst in the NFL of a defense against wide receiver position. So that is exactly what you want to see to have the confidence to start rookie Zay Flowers this week. A tight end you must start this week is Dallas Goedert at Seattle. Last week we went George Kittle at Seattle, and we're going to continue to pick on the Seahawks. 16-plus points given up to tight ends in each of the last 2 weeks to both Jake Ferguson and George Kittle. They're giving up at least they're averaging 63 yards per game given up to the tight end position on the season. And Goedert in his first week back played 85% of snaps. I know it wasn't exactly pretty, but Philly needs to win this week, so they're going to rely on their weapons. They're going to rely on Goedert, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. Right? They can move the ball around, but they can all still be productive. And in a plus matchup for Goedert, we're going to rock with Goedert in this one. The next quarterback we're going to talk about, I don't like him quite as much as Brock Purdy. It's Russell Wilson at Detroit, right? I'm not saying he's a top 6 quarterback, but he's a guy where you just lost Justin Herbert, where you just lost, some of these other quarterbacks where, Joe Burrow, and you've been kind of taking these guys who were either on the waiver wire, who've been QB2s all year. Russell Wilson is a guy I would like to throw in because he's been between 16 and 20 fantasy points for most of the season. So is he going to go out and win you the week like I think Brock Purdy could this week? Probably not. But he's not going to lose it for you either, and he could give you a QB1 start. He's also playing Detroit, who's given up 21 fantasy points to quarterbacks per game over the last 5, and 256 passing yards per game. If Russ can throw in 2 touchdowns, especially with the way Courtland Sutton has been playing lately, that would be big, especially with Detroit's run defense being, the strong part of their defense. And Detroit needs to win, so they should look, hopefully this should be a good game. I like a lot of players in this one. So yes, Russ would be that guy if you're looking for a guy that is for sure going to give you borderline QB1 to maybe mid quarterback 1 game. The next wide receiver, we talked about Brock Purdy earlier, and now we're actually talking about a guy on the other side of the ball, Marquise Brown, against San Francisco. San Francisco was giving up the 12th most yards to wide receivers this season. Brown has had 16 fantasy points, against San Francisco in their last game. And I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking, Cameron, he had 0 points in his last game. Well, he's dealing with a heel injury. He should be healthy. The week before, he saw 12 targets. I think that is more indicative of what we saw last year with Kyler, what we've seen since he's coming back, and then what we're going to see again this week. So I like Marquise Brown, a game where they're going to have to throw the ball in order to stay with San Francisco. Another must-start running back is DeAndre Swift at Seattle. We're going back to this Eagles team. His last 2 games for him have been very, very disappointing, but they've been terrible game scripts as well, right? They got down early. They just got beaten up by both Dallas and San Francisco. Like I said with Dallas Goedert, this is a get-right game for Philly. They need this game to have any shot of getting the first overall spot, getting the bye, going throughout the playoffs. He's had double-digit carries every single game except for the San Francisco game where he took that huge hit. That was bad game script to begin with. Seattle is allowing the most points to running backs over the last 5 weeks, 5.2 yards per carry, 118 yards a game, 5.4 receptions, and 46 receiving yards, and 1.8 touchdowns per game to the running back position. That's everything that you want to see for DeAndre Swift in a game where Philly really could come out and try to establish just dominance on the ground, control the game script, control the narrative all the way through. And the last guy we're going to talk about another rookie wide receiver in Rashee Rice at New England. Right, New England, they are a dumpster fire right now. Their pass defense hasn't been any better. They're giving up the 11th most yards to wide receivers. And Rashee Rice is coming off quite the streak. 10, 9, and 10 carries for his last 3 games respectively. 24, 14, and 18 PPR fantasy points in those games, and at least 7 receptions in each of those games. He's the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense. Travis Kelce hasn't been as dominant as of late. I'm not saying he's slowing down yet. I'm not going to put that on Kelce, but he hasn't been as dominant as we've seen in the since probably week 7. So I think Rashee Rice could be in for another high target, high volume. He finds the end zone. Fantastic game. Week-winning game, if you will, this week against New England. Well, I hope you enjoyed our 8 must starts. I hope that these are guys that you can plug into your lineup, that we can win week 1. If you're on the bye, like I am in a couple of my leagues, then we can relax. If you're like I am in another different league, we're going to be sweating this one out. So we're hoping that these guys are guys that you can plug into your lineup, guys that maybe you're on the edge of, and now giving you the confidence to know these are the guys that you need to start to put yourself in a position to win the championship. As always, hit that subscribe button, hit those notifications. We will see you later this week with the podcast, and Lucas will be with you on Friday. So that's all I got for today, and deuces.